Now we're done with our first topic. We're going to move to our second topic. The second topic has to do with the free fall of the city. We're worried. Businessmen are worried. We're all worried. We want to find out what exactly is accounted for this free fall and how do we come out of it. We'll take a short break. When we come back, Mr. Joe Jackson has a beautiful presentation. At some point, he'll give us a very nice presentation. You don't want to miss it. I'll also be joined by Abdul Ganiu. Abdul Ganiu is a technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance. And also, I'll be speaking to somebody from Guta who have some serious reservations about the way the city is treating them. And so stay tuned in. It promises to be very interesting. All right, welcome back. So the city is on a free fall. What's happening to the city? In fact, Bloomberg has actually reported that by the end of this year, the city will breach the 14.85 that we're currently seeing. It will probably hit about close to 16 cities per dollar. Big trouble, very trying times, very troubling times. What exactly is happening? Let me start with a technical advisor technical advisor at the Finance Ministry, that Dr. Abdul Ganiu. Let's start with him. Let's find out what the Finance Ministry is doing about the city depreciation. Good morning, Doc. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
All right.
And of course, good morning to your viewers, and good morning to all my friends in the studio.
Right. How worried is the Finance Ministry about what the city is going through?
Well, everyone is concerned. I mean, just like all other Ghanaians, managers or handlers of the economy are even more worried, But we continue to consider the fact that these things are quite usual, especially for the first quarter into the second quarter of every year. We should understand that importers certainly would have brought goods towards December, and maybe by January, February, when all of that is exhausted, they will surely go back to the international market to begin to bring in some more goods. So that demand for the dollar certainly is going to put pressure on the city. But if you look at the city depreciation in terms of the year to date, from January up to about May, we are talking about a depreciation of 12%. And the same period last year, the depreciation was around 27%. So that certainly is an indication that even though the cedi has depreciated, about 12% is so high, is so considerable. And that would mean that every manager or every handler of the economy will be worried. But if you compare that to a 27% depreciation the same period last year, it certainly shows that even though depreciation is taking place, but it's become more slower this year compared to last year. We understand that we are in an election year, and whatever the level of depreciation will come with greater concern. People are going to heighten, if you want, that particular concern, especially coming from the minority. But if you look at the same period depreciation last year of about 27%, perhaps we did not hear all the many concerns that are being expressed today. Apart from huge importation that you probably look at around this time, there are some other factors that certainly would have caused the current level of depreciation. The minority is right if they say that we have made some significant payments to contractors. What I disagree with is the 7 billion Ghana cedis that has been put out there, and to create the impression that these payments were made off budget. But these are IPCs that have ended for quite some time. And if payment has had to be made on these IPCs, I do not think there's anything wrong with that. Your network and many other networks surely would have reported agitations, protests by contractors to the effect that they have executed projects, and those projects, some of them have not been paid for, and some have even taken their tools and everything else and packed from their site. So it's a major concern, and government has had to prioritize those payments in the first quarter into the second quarter of this year. So that would mean that a lot more high CD liquidity in the system is most likely to put pressure on the CD. Then there are also issues of bondholder maturity of about 5.8 billion Ghana cedis that we had to pay in February. So that again pumps a lot of CD into the system, and that certainly would create the pressure that we are seeing on the CD. BOST continue to demand dollars for the importation of oil, ECG, payments to IPPs, and the fact that all of these payments most likely are going to land in the forex market have all contributed significantly to the 12% depreciation rate that we are currently seeing. So basically, these are some of the causes, and the Ministry of Finance is very much concerned about that. Minister will be addressing a press conference somewhere in May, that is this month, and we're going to address all of these issues and some of the measures that are being put in place to ensure that we stem the tide of depreciation so that in the course of the year, the projections that are being made about what level of CD we are going to record by the end of the year, I believe those measures should be able to ameliorate that and bring some stability to the CD and perhaps for the CD to regain some of its lost value.
I see. That's quite interesting. Because we don't have a lot of time, and you have other, you have other appointments to attend to. I wouldn't want to keep you on the line for too long, but let me just finally ask you this: that there are people who are saying that one of the reasons why the city is falling is also based on speculations and sentiments. To what extent does the finance ministry factor all of this in analyzing what's happening to the city?
Well, it does happen. I mean, sentiments, obviously, because we are an election year, there are those investors who probably will want to keep assets in dollars and just adapt a wait and see attitude, what happens by the end of the year. So instead of making significant investments into some of their projects, most likely they'll keep holding on for them to see what happens in an election year, who wins power, who takes over, what the policies and programs are going to be. So every election year, these things are seen, and that's exactly what we are going through. But the assurance that I will continue to give to the market is that people should relax. We believe that the inflows that are expected for the rest of the year should be able to stabilize the currency. You know that we have successfully undergone a staff level review with the IMF. We've secured a staff level agreement. Next month will be the executive board meeting of the IMF. And the expectation is that the $360 million third tranche is expected to come in. So that certainly will bring some forex into the market. And then there's also the Development Policy Operation 2 under the World Bank. And once we are able to go through all the processes, we are able to undergo all the prior agreements, at the end of the day, we should secure some $300 million from the World Bank as well. So these are inflows. And if everything goes well, the cocoa syndicated loan will come in as well. So that certainly is going to show up our foreign reserves. And once that happens, it should strengthen the cedi for the rest of the year. But I agree with any analyst, and I believe Uncle Joe will be speaking to this, that long term, we have to begin to look at some structural reforms. We have to begin to look at how best we can boost local production, for example, so that most of the goods that we consume in this country are goods that are produced within.
Okay.
This is the surest way of strengthening the city, you know. So for the rest of the year, the measures that I've just disclosed are short term, just to be able to keep the cedi strong against the dollar, against the pounds, and all the other major trading currencies.
All right, Dr. Abdul Ghani, I'll leave you, but make us a promise. Let's have you one of this in the course of the week, either Monday or Wednesday. Let's have Mrs. Joe Jackson. Let's all think through how we can come out of this, because it's a conversation that would need some time. So I'll let go of you so you can attend to the other assignments that you have. Let's talk after the program. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All
So
right,
certainly from next week, I'll be in Accra.
Absolutely.
So we can have that deeper
That's
conversation.
great. That's great. And when
Right.
Mr. Joe Jackson has time, you join us as well. So, what do you make of this? I mean, what's your theory as to what's happening to the city?
I want to situate this a bit. So if you allow me,
Sure.
I'll just go to the
Screen.
and I'll show you. Is the city in free fall? Right? You notice I started from January 2022 because that's really the point where our problems started.
All right.
When we were, you see, first of all, you got to understand, in the first, from 2017 up until 2020, we seem to have a beautiful policy. What was that? We go to Eurobond and then we buy, what do you call it? We issue a paper and they give us money. That money comes essentially to shore up the value of the cedi. Those inflows are from outside. The nice part to this policy was that since we're not borrowing locally, our interest rates were low. So if you look at the indicative 180-day T-bill, it was sub 12%.
Yeah.
So, and that was when we were celebrating arresting the dollar.
Yeah.
There was one catch though. The foreign markets were watching us carefully to see what it will really take for us to service that debt. Not even what it would take to pay the principal, because we could always refinance the principal, but what it would take for us to service that debt. Unfortunately, we took our eye off that ball and we watched the cost of debt service rise all the way to above 50% of all we earned.
Wow.
And that was when, at that point, the rating agencies downgraded us. Ghana became toxic, and we were shut out of the market. So let's start 2022. If you notice, 2022 January, we're still cool. Nothing had gone wrong. 6 cedis to $1. Wasn't very good, but
It's okay. It's manageable.
we're hanging in there. Then the trouble started. We moved, and listen, these are the rates, period end rates, but sometimes, remember that we went as far as 15 and came down. So we went to 8 in July 2022. We went to 9.76 in January 2023. July 2023, 11.38. January, 11.90. May, we hit 13.95. Now you notice that when you look at the height of these bars, you notice that this has taken a sharp jump. And that is why there is now worry in the market. But even worse, let's look at the last week. Just 1 week. Starting on May 11th and ending on the 17th of May, yesterday. That is when the trouble starts. You see, the honorable advisor from the Ministry of Finance talked about year-to-date 12%. It's not bad when you look at what happened the previous year. The problem, why people are shouting and declaring that there is something wrong, is that in 1 week we've suffered a 4.67% depreciation. If you extrapolate that to a whole month, then you see trouble is brewing. Trouble is brewing. And that's why there's so much screaming and shouting. Because this week alone, the effect is that, listen, every month for our energy, 400 million. We don't get that $400 million, oh, not cedis.
Yeah.
We don't get that $400 million put in place. Start reading anything from Doomsaw to queues for fuel, etc. So now, when you see this level of depreciation, then people start to get scared. Guta starts to get scared. And remember, this is Ghana. We import everything. Even, I like to give the example that even our vaunted jollof for which we are fighting with Nigerians as to that our jollof is better. Let's look at it. The rice, imported. The tomatoes, imported. The onions, Burkina Faso. The chicken, I give you the pick from Australia or from Brazil or wherever you like. So you realize that we import everything. Drugs. Honorable is wearing a smock, and I thank him for wearing a smock.
Yeah,
the rest of us, we wear everything we wear, even when it's Ghanaian print, it's from China.
This is locally produced.
But you realize that this is why people are crying foul, and this is what scares us. So the first thing to ask ourselves is that, why has this thing jumped all of a sudden? Because why are things getting that bad? And that's where the problem lies. What's the real cause? Here's what I have to say. First of all, cocoa is a problem. See, every year, traditionally, before everything happened, cocoa is what traditionally Ghana uses to, as they say, chalk protect and chalk everything. This year, because of all our challenges, the cocoa syndicated loan was only around 800 and something million. Typically, it is twice that. We didn't buy the cocoa on time. The farmers are not bad people, but when there's cocoa in bags sitting there and cocoa board is not ready to buy, they will take the cocoa, cross the border, and send it to Côte d'Ivoire. So this year, cocoa receipts look, in fact, and it's tragic, because this year, cocoa receipts have hit a record high in price. And the problem is that, first of all, we forward sold all our cocoa, so we are not getting the benefits of those prices. Then we didn't have enough cocoa going out. So part of it is people are looking at cocoa and saying, cocoa is not coming on. This thing is going to be a problem. And this, listen, you cannot write off sentiment. But the bigger problem is this. Over the last 2 years, and coming from this same 2022, we had inflation, prices, 50%. So now we are celebrating when our inflation drops to 20-something%. Right? What it does is that inflation debases your currency. The cost of prices. So what is happening is that all those, first of all, let's be clear. When you deficit finance the government to the tune of 55 billion, purportedly to save the country, maybe you have saved the country, but you have bigger woes ahead of you.
Right.
Some of the woes we have, we are now feeling it. The inflation that was created. Because inflation, see, let's not complicate this matter. Let's look at yam. Yam in the market. If today we all give our wives and other people who go to the market a lot more money to go and buy yam, the price of yam will what? Will go up.
Yes.
Economics 101, nothing sophisticated. So when there was a lot more money in the economy, chasing those few goods, we'll have inflation. Yeah. Inflation now debases and makes our currency depreciate. So what we are feeling now is the lagged effect. Remember, the thing doesn't happen. It's not like you pump money today and it happens tomorrow.
It's not instant, yeah.
It's been, that effect is now kicking in. And remember, inflation has been so bad that prices have more than doubled in the same 2-year period. So that's where we sit.
That's what we say. Okay.
And then throw in the others. See, one of the things we all have to understand is this. One of the reasons why the Cedi has been fairly stable is that since the 18th of December 2022, we lifted our hands and said, we can't pay. So we haven't paid our foreign commercial debtors.
Right.
So part of the stability is that the government is not taking dollar to go and pay our FX commercial debtors, the Eurobond and co.
Yeah.
We're not servicing that debt. We've stopped. When you announce that you have an agreement, you need to conclude, it means what are you going to do? You're going to start paying. So all of a sudden, everybody looks at the Cedi available, the dollar available, and says, there's trouble ahead.
There's trouble ahead.
So in the sense that the sentiment, that sentiment means people are keeping their money
in their pocket.
In their pocket, their dollar. They're not putting the dollar down. They're not investing because everybody knows that dollar is going to be harder to find.
Yeah.
In fact, you will find that when somebody wants to save, you see, another thing, when you have the kind of inflation we've had, people lose faith in the Cedi.
Yeah.
Because all that happens is that a Cedi today, you see, it's not magic. If you were paid 6,000 cedis in January 2022, decent amount of money, you could step into town and do $1,000 worth of things.
Yeah.
Today, you can't even do $500 worth of things. Country that exporting. You see, all of us sitting here, including cameramen, the technicians, etc., everybody has suffered a halving of your purchasing power. Period.
That's it. Let me do this quickly. Charles, Kusiapia Kubi is with Guta. Charles, good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning, Moro. And good morning to you, our special guest there.
So how is this Cedi depreciation really affecting your businesses? And what do you think we can do to come out of it? I mean, you could do this in summary. I'll be very happy because time is not our best friend as we speak.
Okay, very well. Thank you once again. And for us as businesses and traders, the moment we talk about Cedi depreciation, we are talking about capital depreciation as well.
Right. So your point is Cedi depreciation is about capital depreciation. Help us understand that.
Dealing as the Cedi. All right. So if today I was supposed to buy $100,000, but let's assume last year or any part of this year, I bought goods worth $100,000, and at that time, dollar was about 11.90. That would mean that I would need about 1.19 million Ghana cedis to do that. Today, if I have to do that, I will need about 1.5 million. That difference is a loss to my capital. That means that if I need to pay same $100,000, I need to go for either a facility from a bank, or better, I reduce the quantities of items I have to purchase. The moment your stock quantity starts depleting, is a relationship that is also established with your capital strength. So for us as businesses, it's a big conversation where we're talking about forex lost and the Cedi losing its strength. One other thing that is also does to us is that as business, probably when costs of doing business go high, you're supposed to pass it on to the consumer. But in a country where inflation is in the roofs and salaries are peak, they are static, it also means that their disposable income also will be affected. So their purchasing power will also be diminished, that they cannot pay if we decide to increase same cost to the product they have to be buying. This, of course, will have effects on our cash projections, because as businesses, we strive on turnovers. The more we're able to sell, the more we're able to get some cash in to meet our retiring debt to the banks. If purchasing powers, if disposable incomes have been affected, it also means that sales will be going down. And if sales are going down, it means that we might not be able to meet our debt obligations with the banks. And it becomes a worry that even when you have gotten credited supply and you have to pay them in dollars and the dollar is high, it becomes a much more health-breaking issue for us. So when this happens, when products and goods start going high, it affects inflation. And when inflation is being affected, Bank of Ghana, through its monetary policy, want to arrest inflation, and therefore he wants to increase policy rates. When you increase policy rates, it means that cost of borrowing also becomes high, and it adds on to the cost of doing business we are complaining.
Okay, Charles.
So
I get it, but Charles, do me this favor. I think that you need a bit more time to explain the issues much better. We're so sorry that we're really running out of time. So I'm going to make you a promise that Monday or Wednesday we would get in touch with you so that we can have you, hopefully, in the studio to tell us more about how the Cedi depreciation is affecting your business. Is that okay with you, sir?
Very well, very well.
Yes, but I'm happy that at least you're giving us some preliminary thoughts about how this is affecting your business. I want to thank you so very much for your time. Now, he's the head of, he's actually the head of Business and Economic Bureau of GUTA. Alex, I don't know how you're going to do this in summary. What do we do?
Look, I'm going strictly political.
Okay.
The economy of Ghana is not run by Joe Jackson.
Right.
It's not run by you. It's run by a government we voted into power to run the economy. It is economic management. Every government meets problems. We had Dumso. The rest of the world didn't have Dumso when NDC was in power. We had inherited it over years of not addressing our power situation. We had to fix it. We didn't moan. A, B, C, D. We did what Ghana needed at the time. It cost us an election. Let us be clear.
It did.
It cost us an election to fix that. And nobody gave us credit at the time. We fixed it and left it. And another person comes to take over. And we are back with it. With a worse economic situation, with citing problems that affect the whole world. COVID was the whole world crisis. Russia and Ukraine is a whole world crisis. So every other country suffered it, not just Ghana. And you want me to give any credit to this government for this debacle of an economic situation? It is pure mismanagement. You hit the nail on the head. If you borrow without looking how you are going to pay it tomorrow, you will have a problem. If you go and promise everything in the world, and you think you are going to do it, you can even see the lack of thought in planning. Who goes and starts 111 hospitals when the money for the 111 you have already sunk in would have 10, 15 standing by now?